Wherever you are, and welcome to today's webinar, Building Branded mCommerce Apps for SugarCRM. My name is Glenn Johnson. I'm a Senior Vice President here with Magic Software Enterprises, and I'm joined today by Andy Bowie, a Senior Consultant with the Professional Services team here at Magic Software. Welcome, Andy.
Thanks, Glenn.
And welcome to all of you for joining us. We thank you for taking the time today to look into this topic of how you can build an mCommerce app, in other words, an mobile application that allows you to purchase products or services, and to have that connected with your SugarCRM environment so that you have contiguous business processes and connected business processes that allow you to both share information as well as transact business in a seamless and smooth manner. And so this is an important topic for organizations that are running SugarCRM and that are seeking to deliver products and services through multiple channels, including mobile devices, both smartphones, and also, of course, tablets in many instances. So we encourage you to participate in today's webinar by asking any questions that might come up in the course of the webinar. You can enter those in by typing them into the chat box or to the question and answer box and sending them to the host and presenter. We'll have time for those questions at the conclusion of the formal presentations in today's webinar, which will include a live demonstration by Andy. And so we're looking forward to that in the context of our subject matter today. So the mobile commerce market, the e-commerce market that includes mobile devices, is often referred to as mCommerce, and it's a very hot area of the market. It's suggested that today more than 10% of e-commerce transactions are taking place through mobile devices, tablets and smartphones and so forth. And also that, this is something like $4.7 billion in the second quarter of 2013, for example. The numbers just keep going up and up, and that it's growing faster than the overall online commerce or e-commerce market as well. So there's reason for us to talk about this. Now, we won't be talking today about promoting an app with advertising. That's not what we mean by talking about branded apps here today. For that, there are agencies such as those that you see listed here that might be appropriate for you to talk to about your mobile advertising strategies. What we're talking about is the actual sale process, the transaction. How can you create an application for your customers to use, for your team members to use, that allows you to purchase products and record orders and that sort of thing. And to do that, of course, you're going to want to create very attractive branded apps, and those kinds of branded apps that we're seeing on the marketplace fall into a variety of different categories. Not just shopping apps, but actual branded applications that have some purpose that includes some shopping, but also meets a different type of need. For example, an informational need or an informative app. And a great example of that would be something like the REI Snow and Ski Report, where you can get right into seeing what the conditions are and various ski resorts and so on, and get the kind of information that a person who is affiliated with the brand or attached to that brand of REI really wants to know about. And by having information which has an affinity to the brand itself, you're creating an interaction on that mobile device that puts the right people in place, number one, and people who are interested in particular topics and very specific kinds of things. And so an offer that is then made within the structure of an application, such as an informative app for an actual product purchase, can be extremely well-timed. Hey, conditions are great here. Let's buy a pass. Hey, conditions are great here. Let's get those new boots that you were looking for. Hey, conditions are great here. Let's get the new outerwear, the new ski clothing, or whatever it is that people use when they do this. Let's get that in place. There are also virtual apps. I think this category is very interesting. You know, the Zippo app, where it doesn't really do the thing, but it simulates doing the thing. And so, you know, you're not really lighting a lighter, but you have a smartphone that kind of looks like there's a lighter being lit, and I can even brand it in a way that I might have a a lighter in my pocket that has the Harley Davidson logo on it. Well, guess what? For 99 cents, I can buy that virtual lighter from Zippo and go to my favorite concert and listen to Willie Nelson and wave the Harley Davidson Zippo in front of Willie. I guess people want to do that. I don't know, but it's kind of cool. And then there are useful apps that actually combine information and in such a way that they could be sitting there right side by side while you're cooking a recipe, while you're planning a meal. The Kraft iFood Assistant is a good example of that. And you'll notice that we call it a branded app, and yet the brand logo isn't appearing anywhere on those screens, is it? I had to stick it up above so you knew that it was from Kraft. How do they accomplish their branding then? Well, they do it with the product suggestions that are incorporated into the recipes and the meal plans that they're offering, so that you're actually seeing Kraft branded foods being recommended, as well as their subsidiaries and other companies that they own. Their foods being recommended as part of these various recipes. Ingenious, yes. Useful, yes. Pretty cool. Now, there's the functional. The DirecTV mobile app that actually, get at what we might call today Internet of Things, although this has existed long before we were really calling it the Internet of Things. It was just a way for a mobile app to control your DVR, to be able to play back videos and on your device, as well as to to kind of connect that with your DVR. So that's kind of cool as well. So now we see a lot of different types of apps, and the next one that I want to talk about is location-based, because location-based, we're shifting a little bit in terms of the way we're categorizing these, but location-based apps have as one of their predominant features the fact that where you are while you're using it makes a big difference. And those can be extremely powerful in terms of the importance that they have to the user at that given moment. If I am walking a trail and I have an app that guides me along that trail via GPS, that's pretty powerful. And guess what? It's branded. And guess what? I can say, you know what? Next time I need more MREs on this trip, and I can, order my MREs. Or I can say, you know what? I need a heavier coat next time. I order a coat, or whatever that particular thing happens to be. And then there's the whole idea of gamified apps with offers, with ordering capabilities built into them that could also be considered a type of branded app that in the mCommerce area. Barclays Water Slide Extreme was very popular. They followed up with the Roller Coaster Extreme and so on. And gamification is an area that's probably worthy of just a little bit further exploration, so we'll do that right now. Gamification is the idea of taking an application whose primary purpose is not to play a game, but whose primary context is business, but has the elements of gaming in it in such a way that it creates some result that the brand behind that game is after. That might be loyalty, that might be brand affinity, it might be actual product purchase. And whatever that is, gamifying an application usually involves certain kinds of mechanics. A point system, being able to earn badges, being able to achieve new levels, being listed on a leaderboard, or best score tracking, overcoming specific challenges related to the gaming environment. These things all engage us and keep us coming back time and again, even after we know how to tweak as many angry birds as you could possibly imagine. Guess what? There's new ways to do this. There's new things that make it interesting and keep us coming back, don't they? So gamification mechanics are important, but beyond the mechanics, which are pretty commonly understood by everyone, there's more less tangible things that are important as well, like the accelerated feedback cycles that lead to engagement. the goals of the game that keep us engaged and interested in it. How do those relate to the brand? Are they consistent with the brand, or should Children's Hospital, for example, have a brand, have a game where you're involved in killing ninjas or panda bears or whatever? Probably not. It doesn't fit right with the premise of the brand. So the goals need to be consistent and clear and engaging. The narrative needs to be compelling, the storyline, if you will, of the game, and it also needs to be challenging but achievable, keeping the audience in mind. So this whole idea of engagement is key, and Gartner, who of course is leading IT Analyst Group in talking about gamification, has suggested that gamification has emerged as a significant trend in recent years and uses game mechanics and game design techniques in non-gaming contexts, like we said, and it's a powerful tool to engage employees, customers, and the public to change behaviors, develop skills, and drive innovation. And one of the things that we can do through gamification, of course, is build in offers and coupons and rewards that are product purchase related, service purchase related, and part of an overall mCommerce approach, and in the right environment, in the right way that's useful. Not just selling, like power packs and things for the game itself, but actually providing ways that purchasing can perhaps yield rewards in the game environment, or rewards that are earned in the game environment can make it possible to purchase certain items, or make it possible to purchase them at a discount, and so forth. Well, there are so many segments out there, and I know that those of you who are on the call are from a variety of different segments, but the jewelry sector is an interesting one for us to focus on for just a moment. In the jewelry sector, as in all of the luxury goods areas, the importance of branding in the mobile app for mCommerce is quite clear. Luxury brands need to communicate the luxuriousness of their environment in all dimensions. If you've ever been to a high-end automobile dealership and looked at the brochure that they hand you for that, you'll notice that it's just the brochure itself is a luxury. It's often bound in vellum, and it has special reflective inks, and it's got thick, luxurious paper, and very careful attention has been paid to the wording and so forth. All interesting stuff. How do we then create that sense of luxury in an interactive mobile app? Well, we do that by incorporating the various interactive elements and graphical elements that are possible in mobile apps. And if we look at the interaction, it's interesting what's being used in the jewelry sector today. They looked at 80 applications and found that 41% of them, for example, were using touch and swipe support. Well, that means 60% of them aren't. That's not necessarily a good report card. Swipeable product galleries are used by less than a third of these environments. Only about a fourth of them are using optimized drop-down menus. Only 15% have a landscape and portrait mode support in terms of the way that they're optimized. And fewer than 1 in 20, or about 1 in 20, have galleries that will adapt to an orientation change. A fluid grid, if you will, is available. So if you're looking for ways to achieve competitive advantage in a luxury segment, it looks like there's still a lot of opportunity to use more powerful forms of interaction in order to achieve better engagement with your end users. And so these are all things that are interesting and relate to the types of interaction that are made a part of the mobile commerce app that we're using and connecting with SugarCRM. Well, let's look at the jewelry, an example of that in the jewelry segment. This is Tiffany & Company's engagement ring application. What's neat about it is you take a photo, you get a ring size, you can look through products, you can choose, we chose this beautiful $41,500 engagement ring, and then there's a social dimension where we can notify our circle of friends, let people know that, hey, we're engaged, this is the ring we chose, this is pretty cool. So you can do that, via email or sharing on social media sites and so forth. Really a nice example of a beautifully branded application that's supporting mCommerce and supporting the promise of the brand and the brand attributes in a very successful way. Another example is Cleveland Golf. With Cleveland Golf, we integrated this particular application for them, and it allows their salespeople to go into a store, talk to the store manager with an iPad application, and the store manager could look over the shoulder of their salesperson and place the order that they want to place. And it's a beautifully branded application on the iPad with obviously the up-to-date product catalog, the pictures and so forth of what's available, the various sizes and types of products that are available, so that when the order is placed, you have integration to the systems on the back end, and someone who's using a CRM system like Sugar can look at their results and see, oh, this is the latest. So the next time they call, they know that that order has already been placed, through this app and so forth. And so this is the kind of thing that is quite interesting. Now, Magic Software has an enterprise mobility offering, which is a fully integrated mobile enterprise solution that manages the back-end systems, the user experience, the cloud-based systems, has completely scalable environment with all the security measures you need. We have options for mobile device management. We bring expertise through our professional services organization. And with SugarCRM, there are a number of different kind of applications that you might need. For example, you might need a customer-facing, mobile commerce app, a shopping experience for that customer that needs to be integrated with SugarCRM. It might need to integrate with your existing web e-commerce platform. You need things like mobile field service and parts ordering capabilities while your mobile field service team is in the field, and you want that integrated with Sugar as well, so the sales and service team knows what's going on out there in the field. You may have an order approval workflow where a order comes in and needs to be reviewed, and so a mobile app that allows a person to review that while they're not in the office, while they're wherever they happen to be in a mobile situation, they can access it via their smartphone and provide that approval. Obviously, there are various operational and fulfillment processes. You might need sales reports on a mobile device, unified sales reports for both your traditional sales organization as well as the online sales and so forth. Those can all be very interesting. And so Magic is providing a platform to do that, which includes the application platform for building the mobile apps, as well as the integration platform for connecting them to your back-end and cloud-based systems. And that approach leverages the metadata so that you don't have to do line-by-line coding. That's what Andy's going to be showing us, is how you can create this without doing a lot of line-by-line programming, and then you can still connect to all of the various systems that you have out there in your environment and have apps that can deploy to any of the client-side devices that you might have there. And so the advantage of the Magic Mobile offering is that you have this multi-platform approach where you write once and deploy to many different environments with the back-end integration and native client look and feel that you're after, any form factor. You can design those applications either as fully native apps or as hybrid apps with some web or mixed HTML5 capabilities in there, and all of this is a highly leveraged environment. So when you work with APIs for SugarCRM, you're going to have a number of typical requirements out there for an mCommerce app. One of the things people are going to be asking for are order history updates. So they want the online orders that are placed in the mCommerce app and the purchase history to be visible in Sugar. You're going to have people asking that, if there's a change of contact that's information that's made via your customer's use of the mobile app, that new or additional phone number or email address or physical address is then made available in Sugar. And that makes sense as well. You might have the need for synchronization of your product catalog across a variety of different systems. So master item data synchronization is an integration process. And then the question becomes, well, what is our single source of truth? Do we have a single source of truth? Is it the ERP and accounting system? Is it our customer relationship management system, Sugar? Is it a product lifecycle management system that's independent of these two environments? Maybe we just want to use our e-commerce or mCommerce platform as the single source of truth, where we enter all the information there and the other systems feed off of it. Or maybe we're going to have some kind of centralized data warehouse where all of this is managed and entered. It could even be through SharePoint or something like that. So how do we set up the rules then for the master-master or master-slave relationships between the data environments that are all basically touching essentially the same information? What is the product number? What is the product name? What is the product description? What is there a picture of it? And so forth. What's the price and so forth? So all of that is really subject to the need for integration between Sugar and an mCommerce app. Now, when you're working with APIs for mobile environments, you're going to find client-side APIs, server-side APIs, APIs that serve in a sort of a SOA fashion across any enterprise application. And a client-side API would be something like a barcode scanner for the phone itself. A server-side API within an app, specific app, might be something like SMS communication protocols. That you don't want to have to write that, so you just use an available component that gives your app that capability for the SMS communications management. You might use a SOA service like a GPS geolocation data, where you can send GPS coordinates and receive back an address or receive back a map with a pin on a map or something like that. So these are all various kinds of APIs that are commonly available and worked with. And of course, Sugar it's an API, and it supports interfaces and integration through a variety of methods depending upon your Sugar release. With Sugar 7, there's an API called Sugar REST, which is a collection of RESTful web services. So this is very powerful. Earlier editions of Sugar utilized Sugar SOAP, a set of SOAP-based web services, and those are still available. So you can use either of those. If you're using Sugar today, current version, Sugar 7, then try to find a connector or an integration platform that supports finding, discovering, and running those web services using REST and SOAP. Of course, Magic XPI's integration platform has the SugarCRM connector, so you know that that's all taken care of. Now, when you're looking at a platform, what to choose, yes, for Sugar, you're going to want support for those RESTful web services, for probably for SOAP as well. Ability to transform, format, and transport XML is key to that. The ability to get and put HTTP formatted documents is key to that. The ability to monitor directories, parse XML files, and perform basic CRUD operations on those XML files. And some of you kind of think, well, I'm a programmer. I can do any of those things. Yes, you can, but the idea is to use a loosely coupled approach so that you have platform level capabilities and don't have to be rewriting your code every time you've got a new enterprise software system, or rewriting your code every time if there's an update or slight change. The maintenance of that integration is so much easier in an integration platform, and it really makes sense for you to concentrate on the business logic of the applications themselves. And so the ability to integrate major ERP applications is going to be vital to your Sugar CRM integration as well, and you're going to want to have a system that provides business process models and orchestration that allows you to automatically map data, transform it, which Andy will be talking to us about, I'm sure, do the business process monitoring, have security processes built in, have SOA compliant technology so you can work with web services and the cloud, and of course mobile support. Very important to be able to work in an environment where if you need to create an application for an iPhone or an Android device or a BlackBerry or Windows, whatever, XYZ mobile, that you have a cross-platform solution for creating those kind of apps, either the native apps ideally and things like the iOS, Android, Windows environments and so forth, or perhaps a web-based HTML5 or hybrid app as well. So all of that is really key, I think, to defining what's needed for integration with Sugar. We're proud of the fact that with Magic XPI 4.0, we have support for all of these requirements. We utilize an in-memory data grid, which gives you the high performance that you need. It's a very comprehensive enterprise architecture where you not only have the adapter layer, but you have an orchestration layer, you have a highly available and scalable messaging layer, all of which supports a comprehensive enterprise architecture for both mobile apps and enterprise business process integration. So what I'd like to do at this point is involve Andy now in what we're doing, because I think it's really valuable to actually see these things taking place. That's probably more valuable than what we've just done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make Andy our presenter here so that he can share his desktop. And when he does that, we'll be able to see his applications and how he's going to go about building things. So Andy, take it away.
All right, thanks, Glenn. So for today's demonstration, there's going to be two main parts. The first part I'd like to go through is with our Magic XPA platform. And as Glenn mentioned, that's our application development platform. And what we're going to be doing with XPA today is developing a mobile application from scratch and deploying it to our Android emulator. We're going to be deploying to a Nexus 7 device. And on the second part of the demonstration, we're actually going to go through an application we've developed already. It's one of our pharmaceutical applications for salespeople. And what that application allows us to do is it allows us to add accounts to our database as well as to many different CRMs or ERPs that we've integrated to using our Magic XPI platform, which is our integration platform. Today we're going to be integrating to SugarCRM, so we'll go ahead and dive into the first part of our demonstration, which is the development and deployment of our Magic XPA application. So first things first, I'd like to create a new project. I'm going to go ahead and call this my first app. And we're taking it into the studio. Right now what we can see is kind of our program repository on the right, as well as our navigation pane. And on the left we can see we have a models repository, a data source repository, and our programs repository. And right now the application is blank because it's a brand new application. So before I get started and create my first screen, let's go over what kind of application we're going to be creating. We're going to be creating a simple Hello World welcome screen application for a Nexus 7 device. Now, instead of going through and creating a brand new, actually let's go ahead and do it in real time. I'm going to go ahead and create a new program. We'll call this Welcome. I'm going to give it a public name, something unique, so I know that this is the application that will be booted up, or this is the program that will be first executed when my application is started. And zooming in, I'm prompted with a program properties configuration. Now we're deploying to mobile, so it's going to be a rich client application, and this program will have an interface, so it is an interactive application. Everything else we can leave it as default. Now, we're inside of the program's configuration, or our welcome programs configuration, and we can see three main panels. We have a data view, a logic view, and a forms view. The names might kind of reveal what each responsibility or role is, but let's go over each of the three. The data view allows us to designate what data sources this program is going to be accessing. Now this is just a welcome screen, so we're not actually accessing any data, but this is the screen where if I was creating, say, I wanted to view all the accounts in my accounts table, this is where I would designate in the program to add the accounts table. If I zoom into here, we don't have any data source lists because we haven't defined them yet. But as I mentioned, this is just a simple application or a simple program. So let's go ahead and just say virtual variable placeholder. Okay. Now I'm going to skip the logic view for now because we're going to do something with that after we design our form. So let's go ahead and move over to our forms view. Now here is the list of all of our forms, and by forms I mean our GUI displays. If I zoom and I F5 into my welcome screen form right now, we're going to see a blank screen. We have a blank canvas. Now what I've went ahead and done is I've prepared a couple style sheets that preemptively, so we can use that instead of having to reconfigure the size to make sure it fits the Nexus 7 correctly. Also, there's no background images. So let's go ahead and import those style sheets into our project. So the window that I've popped into now is our Magic XPA root installation directory. I'm going to go ahead and go into this application assets folder, and I'm going to copy these files and paste it into my project folder. To get to my projects, I go to project and go to my first app. Whenever we create a new project in XPA, this is where our projects are automatically created. So my first app, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste it, and then I'm going to switch over to my first app. So now what I want to do is I want to assign a model to my my welcome screen. Now currently we have no models, so we need to import them. I'm going to go ahead and select import, and I'm going to point to those files that I just copied and pasted over into my project directory. So here I have my models, and I have my properties. Now as you can see, I have 37 models that I can use. Of course, we're only going to use one model in this case since we're only generating one program. But let's go ahead and jump into my program again. I forgot to save, so I'll go ahead and redo what I did before. Rich client interactive, create a placeholder variable, give it a picture of 5, and now going into forms, I'm going to assign the first form design. Now when I zoom in, we're going to see a new screen. Now the screen that we're seeing in front of us is actually a Samsung S3 screen. I'm going to go ahead and edit this real quick. 71.550 and 40.550. Okay, now this is our Nexus 7 screen size. And I know that this is the Nexus 7 dimensions because I've developed a lot of applications onto a Nexus 7 device, so we've had to kind of guess and test and tweak a lot of screen sizes in order to get the exact dimensions. So these are it. Now let's go ahead and add some controls to our program. So first things first, we want to go ahead and add a text label. We'll create a banner. In this banner, I'm just going to say, welcome to XPA, exclamation point. I'm going to go ahead and change the font size as well. I think it's font size 8 right now. Let's go ahead and make it font size 14. And then I'm going to use a couple of my quick commands on the right menu to adjust the size and location of the control. I'll select this fit size to increase the size of the label box so we can see the entire message. And then I'll go ahead and center this object to the center of the form. Okay, cool. Next thing I'd like to add is just a button that'll raise a pop-up message. So here under the button, I'll go ahead and give it a label of, say, click here. Once again, I'm going to fit size and center the button. And now, there we go. So I've created a form. The form has a background size. The dimensions have been adjusted to fit onto a Nexus 7 device. We've added a title header message at the top and a button as well. Speaking of the button, one thing I'd like to point out, and as Glenn pointed out earlier in the presentation, Magic XPA applications take on the native look and feel of whatever operating system they're being executed on. Now, as you can see, we're developing this application on a Windows 7 server, or sorry, Windows 2008 server. And as you can see, this looks like a typical Windows button. However, when I run this application on the Android emulator, we're going to see this button take on the look and feel of the Android operating system. So that's just kind of a quick mental note to take to pay attention to when we deploy this application. Okay, so we're on the button right now, and all this application knows is like to display a background image, to display some text at the top, and that there's a button. And when the button is pressed, it displays an animation. Now we need to assign this button or program this button to raise a specific event when the button is pressed. Right now the application doesn't know what to do when the button has been pressed. So here under my raise event property, I'm going to go ahead and create a new user event. So I'm going to press F5 to zoom, F4 to create new. And I'm going to go ahead and give this a unique event name. We'll say welcome button. There's no trigger type. Press OK, OK. And now the application knows that when this button is selected, it is to raise the welcome button event. Now what happens when the welcome button event is raised? That's where the logic tab comes into play. Now we're coming back into our application, or sorry, our program's 3 different views, and now we're working on the logic view, which we skipped earlier. I'm going to go ahead and create a new line, choose my event, welcome button, and now I'm going to define what happens when this button is raised. As Glenn mentioned, there's no to little coding in our XPA as well as our XPI platform. XPA has a kind of a what you see is what you get in terms of design methodology, and also kind of a drag, drop, and configure methodology as well, which is shared with XPI. So we're going to go ahead and raise a verify warning, and we'll just say hello world, exclamation point. Also we'll say, we'll give this this pop-up message, the pop-up message has a title bar, so we'll change it, instead of saying warning, we'll say success, exclamation point. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and run the checker, options checker, to make sure our syntax is all checked and ready to go, and everything looks okay. So I'm going to go ahead and compile my code, which is creating an ECF or cabinet file. And on the next step is I'm going to go ahead and create my APK file, since we're deploying to Android. Some of you may not be familiar, but APK files are the application installing packaging files that Android uses, and IPA files are the application installer files that iOS devices use. So I'm going to go to my interface builder and select my rich client deployment. Okay. So this is the rich client deployment wizard, and basically this wizard is just in charge of creating our application installer files. We're going to go ahead and set the configurations of our application, our client application. Now, when I say client application, which is the file we're about to create, the architecture of how our mobile applications work is these online applications. All we're creating is a simple client app, and inside of these applications or these files is simply a pointer to our application server, where our applications will be hosted, and which application to execute. It's actually the server who handles all the transferring of the metadata and the reading of the source code. So that's why our application installer files are so light and such a small size. None of the metadata is actually stored on the client application itself. So any images we use on an online application, the server, it's all relative to the server's the file path on the server. So let's go ahead and take a couple. We're going to go ahead and go through the wizard, and I'll explain each screen screen by screen. So we're going to create a new instance or a new version of the application. Now on the first screen we have our application information. This is just kind of the cosmetic details or documentations of the application itself. So application title is the title of the application on the device. Application description is when we're going to install, or if we were to hover over the application, it would let us know, it would show us this application description. Same thing goes for publisher name, version code, or version number, and copyright. So I'll go ahead and leave this as default, and I'll go to next. And on the second screen is our server information. As I mentioned, these client applications, kind of the meat of the application is knowing where to go. So I'm going to go ahead and point this client application to my application server, which is the server I'm developing on right now, dev2.magic-inc.com, and I'm just putting in the fully qualified name for the server name. So now after this screen, I'm going to go ahead and let this wizard know that when this application is executed, it's going to go to this dev2.magic-inc server to look for the application to execute. Now, what application is it going to execute? That takes us to our next screen, which is the execution details. When we configure our broker for the XPA broker or application server, we have to add in each entity for or each application and where that ECF or cabinet file we created is located. Also, when we create these new instances, we give them a unique name. By default, these names are normally what we name the project. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the application name as it is. I'm going to select my start program name, which is, as mentioned, the first program to be executed as soon as the application is started. So here, since we only have one program, it's pretty simple to decide which program will be raised first. Execution details and environment variables, this is just the basic application, so we can leave these as default. Clicking next, we can see which operating systems we're going to deploy to. As you can see, we support Windows Desktop, Windows Mobile, and Android and iOS. Today, we're just deploying to Android, so I'll select Android, click Next. Okay, and on this last screen is our Android settings. As we've mentioned, our applications take on the native look and feel of the operating systems they're being executed on. And the way that Magic XPA achieves this is actually by using the native SDKs of those operating systems. For example, currently we're deploying to Android, and as you can see, we're going to point to our Android SDK, and this SDK is the native Android SDK that's used to generate the APK files. If we're deploying to iOS, this wizard will provide us with the code to execute within Xcode to create our IPA files. So I'm going to go ahead and point to our Android SDK, going to Program Files, Android SDK, and SDK. And I can check to make sure that the SDK is valid by clicking on Platform. If there's valid API levels, we'll see them here and we can select. Here I'm going to choose Android API level 18, which I believe is Android operating system version 4.3. Selecting OK, leaving the build settings and signing as their default, I'm going to go ahead and click Finish. And now what the wizard is doing is it's using the Android SDK to generate that APK file for me. And once it's completed, it's going to go ahead and output that file in the published applications project and then my project directory. So here we see Android, and right now what it's doing is it's using these files to actually generate the APK. So here I have my execution properties, and if I edit these, I'll see my application server's details on my dev2.magic-inc.com. And it's actually using this Windows command batch command file to basically automate and create the Android SDK with XPA's formatting of creating our applications. So we'll give this a couple seconds to finish up. And also one thing we've done is we've configured our IIS and enabled directory browsing on this server to allow directory browsing on this published applications folder. And by doing so, we have a very simple way to accessing the APK file. Here I'm going to open up my web browser and just kind of show that once we go to our server, we can access the APK. And the reason we do this is because there's several ways to transport an APK file. We found that this is the easiest. There's other ways to do it, such as plugging in your device and dragging and dropping it into the correct directory, as well as maybe emailing the APK to yourself. This is just the cleanest way and a sure way to get to it. So here we can see the My First App, Android, and it's still building. Okay, so it should be wrapping up. And when we jump into the second application, we'll go ahead and take a quick look at the source code on the XPA end. We'll then go into the application itself on the emulator, do the demonstration with the integration to SugarCRM, and then after that, we'll take a look at the XPI Studio and see exactly what's happening in the back end. Okay, so the APK file was generated successfully, and now if I refresh this, we'll actually see just the APK file. Last thing to do is to start our application server. Start My First App. Give it a couple seconds to start up, and then we'll go ahead and switch over to my Android emulator. So here we have a Nexus 7 device. I'm going to go ahead and open up my browser. Let's go ahead and refresh. Go to my first app. This always takes me a couple tries because the mouse is not consistent with the touchscreen. Android and my first app.apk. So now it's currently downloading the APK. I'll go and select it. Click install. Should be a quick installation since it's a very light application, and I'll go ahead and open it. So we have the loading screen, and then we should be prompted into our application. So here we have our Welcome to XPA as well as our button. The button got cut off a little bit, so we can make a minor adjustment to the button size, but for the most part, we can see that the button, or that our application is here. And as I mentioned before, that mental note, our button has changed from a Windows button to a native Android button. So let's go ahead and click the button and see our pop-up message. We see the title bar is success exclamation point, and we have our hello world message. All right, so I think in about 15 minutes we were able to create a simple application using our XPA platform and deployed it to our Android device. Pretty cool. All right, so let's step into our second part of the demonstration. So here I have my pharma app. And basically, this is just an application, kind of a pilot application that we created for a pharmaceutical company that would had traveling salesmen. So the traveling salesman would maybe need to add a new contact while they're on the road. So we'll go to contacts. Now these entries are coming from a database, but most of the time these contacts want to be added into some kind of ERP or CRM backend system. So we're going to go ahead and create a new contact. We'll go ahead and use my information, Andy Bowie at company.com, and I'm going ahead and just add in my office address, Avenida de la Carlota, zip code. Now, when I'm finished filling out this information, I'm going to click Save, and what we're going to see is what looks like an error screen, but actually it's something that we're using right now just to make sure that all the data is pulling in correctly and that the assigned variables are being populated with the correct data. This is important because when we map it using our XPI platform, we want to make sure everything is formatted correctly so that it is integrated and added to our systems correctly. We're going to say webinar, created for webinar. All right, and under the application name, we have all the systems that we can integrate to. So here we're going to go ahead and use Sugar. Click Save. I'm going to get my pop-up message. We can check and make sure that everything looks okay, everything looks fine. Click OK, and now it's going to access our XPI environment. So here we have my SugarCRM. It's going to take a couple minutes to actually add my account, so I wanted to make sure that last account. Okay, so it actually picked up pretty quickly. We have my Andy Bowie account created at 11:49 a.m., which is today. And if I click on the account, we can go ahead and see that the information was inputted. All right, so that's basically the demonstration. I wanted to show you the studio before it finished, but I guess we caught the server when it had low traffic. So let's go ahead and look at the project. So here's my XPI Studio. I'm going to go ahead and open up the project, which is our Mobile to All project. Okay, and here we have our XPI Studio. This is the first flow. Here we have a business process account, and our first flow is our create account. Now, as I just wanted to reiterate again, Glenn mentioned that the XPA and XPI platforms have a quote-unquote code-free environment. Not 100% code-free, but it's more of a drag, drop, and configure coding scheme. So what happened with this XPI project is we created an HTTP service. I'm going to go to my services repository. And we actually created an HTTP service with a RESTful API. And basically what we did was we created, since we created a RESTful API, our XPI project and our HTTP service is expecting all these different parameters within the URL. Okay, and when this HTTP service is called, it actually assigns, it takes from the URL and assigns some variables within our XPI Studio. This is how we're able to pull from our XPA or application, our mobile application, and integrate it to our backend systems. So now our HTTP service is triggered. This green area denotes triggers. We can trigger it either by being called as an HTTP service, as a scheduler, meaning every 30 seconds or 20 seconds it can check for maybe a file directory, or maybe just every 30 seconds check and see if a new Sugar account has been created. Whatever we need for our project. I mean, it changes from project to project, but this is basically how we configure triggers and how a flow is activated. What we call each individual one of these processes is a flow. So here we have an HTTP service trigger, and when our HTTP service is called, this entire flow is triggered or enabled. And as I showed you earlier, we have all our parameters being assigned to variables, and then from there we're checking to see which application we're going to be integrating to. This is passed as a parameter, which is our what app parameter. So if in our case when we sent the request, when we click that save button on the mobile application, we set what app was set to the value of 5. So here we have our call flow, and we move over to our Sugar flow. Here we have our SugarCRM component. By going to configuration, we're using the operation create because we're creating a new account. And when I go to our data mapper or our SugarCRM mapper, we can actually see all the fields that we can map to. If you look on the left, we have all of our variables that were initialized when our HTTP service was called. We're actually mapping to their corresponding fields on the SugarCRM level. Okay. And that's basically the demonstration I have for our integrating mobile apps and SugarCRM. Glenn, did you want to go ahead and open up the table for questions?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Andy. And please type your questions at this time into the question box or the chat box, and we'll be happy to take those and answer any that you might have for us today. Thanks, Andy, for the demo, by the way. It was a great job.
No problem.
So I see our e-commerce platform uses EDI and XML. Which would be used for Sugar?
EDI or XML? I'm not 100% positive which format we would use in that case. However, we do have data mapping components where we can source. So if you have an XML, as long as you have the schema with the XML, we can pull in from that XML as a flat file and go ahead and add it into our XPI project. So what we could do is actually just create another step. So I would have a data mapper step. Sorry.
Okay, great, thanks. And the next question.
Sorry, one second, Glenn. So I would say, I'm just showing a demonstration real quick. We would have a XML file, properties, and then we would designate which access, where the schema is located. And from there, when we go into map, we could go ahead and see all the attributes, all the elements within that XML, and then map them to their according destination, whether it be to SugarCRM, another XML file, or even just a variable within our XPI project. All right. Now I'm finished, Glenn.
Okay, sorry about that. Didn't mean to jump
no
in
problem.
So then the next question was, can we access a library of .NET objects?
Yes, we can. We do have a .NET service component. In the event that XPI does not have the components or the functionality that you require, it is .NET compatible. We can also create custom components using our Unipass or XPA language as well as Java.
Okay, great, thanks. And I don't see any other questions coming in at this time, so I want to thank you all for joining us. Thanks, Andy, for the demo, and we invite you to go to magicsoftware.com and sign up for any future webinars of interest. Or if you have direct questions, feel free to send them to us at info@magicsoftware.com or give us a call at 949-250-1718, and we'll be happy to help you with any information that you might need. Thanks again for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time.
All right. Thanks all.